Hey everyone, welcome to my ATR Levels indicator overview video. I know a lot of folks out there have been looking forward to this video, so I'm super excited to be able to bring it to you. Before we get started with the presentation, I just want to let you know that this presentation is not financial advice, and I am not a financial advisor. And the indicator is also not a financial advisor. So if you choose to use this indicator in your trading system, any decisions you take off of it are your decisions and your decisions alone. That being said, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I've been programming since around age 9, which I think is a lot more common now, which is awesome to see. And I'm super passionate about software and how it can improve people's lives. Small pieces of code can transform people's lives in very meaningful ways, and I'm very excited about that, and I just love it. Because of my love of software and writing code, I have spent the last 2 decades as a serial entrepreneur. I built 4 tech startups and actually ran a 5th one as well. So, my life for the last 20 years or so has been very deep into technology. And also during that period, I've been investing in trading for almost 25 years. I started in high school, actually, sending ideas to my father, who would then execute them with our broker. And so I primarily focused on stock for the last 20 or so years, and more recently shifted my focus onto options in an effort to start to grow the P&L a little bit faster. So I love traveling and hiking, great food. For a time, I actually wanted to go and become a professional musician. I play the saxophone, guitar, and a little bit of guitar and piano. And so my tech background was also there, and so I really, it was a tough decision, but I went for tech. But I still play, and I really enjoy it. And of course, I love spending time with my family. So I live with my beautiful wife and our kids. We've got 4 kids, and our rescue pup, who's half German Shepherd, half Beagle, in the Boston area. Here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about an overview of the indicator, the features of the indicator. So there's a lot of customization that you can do if you want to. And then we'll walk through some potential examples of how a trade could have gone using the indicator. And I think that should give you a high-level understanding of potentially how you might use it in your trading system. Before we move forward, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you want to learn more about ATR levels. I'll be producing more content. And of course, hit that notification bell if you want to get notifications about new content that I release. All right, let's get into the overview. So ATR Levels is an innovative tool that provides meaningful levels which can be used for day swing or position trades. I created this by combining a lot of key technical concepts and analyzing them over lots and lots of charts. A lot of the ideas that I have taken are ideas that have existed. These are not new concepts in isolation, but the use of them in concert has created something I think is pretty special, and I'm very excited to share it with you. I'm also working on a white paper, which will include detailed formal backtesting, and that's going to be released later this year. Let's talk about ATR. So ATR, or the average true range, is the average of true ranges over a period of time. And the true range is essentially the high minus the low. So it's the range in which that stock has moved. And if you take an average of that over, say, 14, you can get a sense of kind of how volatile the stock is. So ATR is a volatility indicator when used by itself. And you can actually throw the ATR indicator directly onto your charts and see kind of how the stock moves relative to that ATR indicator. But as a value, it's very, very fascinating. It's a super useful value that a lot of different traders have used in different ways over the years. Statistically, it's less likely for a stock to go more than 1 ATR in a period. And so this is kind of a fundamental concept in the indicator. Because of this, we can actually use a plus or minus 1 ATR as a likely maximum and minimum target against a prior closing price baseline and we can observe price action against those long sort of targets away from that close. But of course, we also need to figure out, well, how do I know when it's time to go long? How do I know when it's time to cut my position? And those are all important things that we need to understand as traders. So that's where triggers and targets come in. And so the probability of a stock reaching full ATR range is higher as it moves closer to full ATR range. And that kind of seems obvious. It's not a guarantee, but the probabilities improve as you start to move closer. And so there's a sort of a critical point, which many traders have labeled a trigger, which I really like. I like that terminology. And so you can kind of think of that trigger as, hey, this is the point where I want to go long or go short based on some confirmation. And so what's interesting is if you actually take those ATR ranges, so from close to, let's say, +1 or close to -1, and you map Fibonacci levels against that, you'll see, as I saw, very interesting things happening at certain fib levels. And so I noted that that 23.6 fib level was a fascinating place to potentially go long or short, depending on which side of the trade you want to go on. And then halfway between 1 ATR and that 23.6 fib level was the 61.8 fib level, which we all know is a very important fib level. And so that's sort of how I got to these two. I did a lot of testing against just having that full grid of Fibonacci levels mapped against the range to see what was happening, and I sort of came to the conclusion that these two were the best. So the 23.6 fib was chosen as the default trigger level. That's adjustable. You can change that however you want. The 61.8 is the first possible profit target, and then the full range is the possible ideal profit target. So we're looking for trades, hopefully, that we can get to at least half range, but if we can get full range, that's great too. So let's put it all together. So these are some simple concepts that I've sort of put together into a single indicator. So we get a beautiful map of levels when you use these sort of 7 levels, and I'll show you the levels in just a second. And it works on multiple time frames in multiple different modes. And what I've seen as I've adopted them in my trading system, I have less FOMO. Because every day I go through and see, hey, what hit full range? And there's lots of stocks that are hitting full range. There's lots of stocks that are hitting half range. And so it makes me feel less inclined to take a trade that I don't really feel excited about. And I think that's really great because I think FOMO is one of the things that really causes a lot of problems for traders. We're always worried that we're going to miss that next great trade. But there's the next great trade pretty much every day or every week or every month, depending on what time frame you're looking for. And so I take fewer bad trades now because I'm kind of waiting for what I think is a cleaner setup. And of course, everybody's view is going to be slightly different on this, but having used this now for several weeks, to me, I can kind of visualize the types of trades that I want to take, just sort of getting a feel for it. And so I feel more confident in taking trades. I feel more confident in holding positions. I feel more confident in the stops that I'm setting. And I think that has been really good for me. And I'm very excited to find out if there's a similar feeling from the rest of you as well. ATR Levels is currently in beta. So it's only available currently on my website, which is atrlevels.com. And it's available for Thinkorswim and TradingView. I made it free because I think things like this should be free. If you feel inclined, you're welcome to buy me a coffee. There's a link on the website, but you don't have to. Of course, I love coffee, so I appreciate it if you do. And anybody who's already purchased one, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Versions for other platforms are coming later this year. I'm targeting TrendSpider and potentially Webull. I know a lot of folks are looking for the indicator on those platforms, so I'll be working through that and working with the TrendSpider and Webull folks to see if I can get that in there. Here's a quick example to sort of wrap up everything that we talked. You can kind of see various different levels on here. The blue is the trigger for going long. The yellow is the trigger for going short. And in between it is the previous close, which is the central pivot. This is an interesting example because it shows you the stock car, which has been on a tear recently. And we're actually going to go through a swing mode example for car. But you can see here, it's beautiful. You could have taken a long trade. Let's take a look here. So, here it's starting kind of at the put trigger. It comes up, tests the call trigger, comes back down, go to the central pivot, the previous close, sort of makes its way up, but the EMAs are all stacked still, and they're all trending in the right direction. So it's got a beautiful positive trend, pulls above the call trigger, comes back, retests the 9 EMA. We're on a 10-minute here. And then it sort of does its thing and never breaks down this 512 EMA cloud. And I'm using Ripster's EMA clouds. I have a version for Thinkorswim, which is based off of his. It has all the same mechanics, just slightly more configurable. You can get that on the website as well. But yeah, I mean, it just takes this all the way, and it actually hits the mid-range, kind of consolidates there for a little bit, and you could have taken profits, anywhere over here. But then it goes full range, which is really beautiful, and then it kind of ends just below full range. So you could have set some limit sells at both of these spots and taken some nice profit. You can also just use it as levels, right? You could have, based on your trading system, you could buy or sell at other levels, other support or resistance levels, and then take a trade on it. Well, what's nice about this is the next day it did the exact opposite and hit the put trigger. A little bit of consolidation here, retests of the put trigger, and then it fell down, and it also went to do a retest of the mid level, and then it went full range and then some. So this is really cool because you buy calls on a Thursday, buy put, take profit, buy puts on a Friday, take profit, and then enjoy your weekend. So that's sort of the overview of ATR levels. Let's dive into some of the features, and then we'll get into more examples. So in combination with price, volume, and trend analysis, my ATR levels can be used to create a powerful trading system. So, when you're using this in isolation, it's probably not going to work very well. But if you are, doing technical analysis on the price action and the volume, and you understand the trend of the stock, I use Ripster's EMA clouds. You can use 921, whatever methodology works for you. You can get some amazing results. All right, talking through the features. Here are the levels. From top to bottom, there's a full range long target at +1 ATR, the mid-range long target at plus 61.8% of 1 ATR. The long trigger, which is at 23.6% of ATR. Those are both fib levels, the long trigger and the mid-range long target. And the long trigger is configurable. The short trigger is configurable. You can change that based on your own liking. There's a central pivot that's based off of the previous close. And then there's a short trigger at minus 23.6. The mid-range short target at minus 61.8% of ATR. And then full range short target, which is at -1 ATR. There's also extensions. You can add those. Those are a capability that's built in. I leave them off by default because the typical move is going to be less than 1 ATR. But there are instances where you may want to add that extension. And I'm actually working on potentially filling out the extension feature set to make it a little bit more useful for stocks that are really moving. This is also a great example. I really like this one. So this is a trade I probably wouldn't take. Of course, you can take it. You can scalp it. Buy some calls at support, sell them at resistance. Buy some puts at resistance, sell them at support, etc. You could definitely take a trade on this. But this is, like if I'm visually scanning this, and let's say I'm coming in around 11 o'clock or whatever, and I look at this and it's not. This isn't something I'm going to take. It's testing the put trigger. It went below. Maybe you could have taken a trade there, but the trend lines are sort of sideways, nothing really directionally up or down. So this is not an exciting trade, and I kind of wanted to use this as an example to kind of show you where you can quickly scan for stocks and see, does this fit sort of what I'd like to take long or short. So for me, that's sort of how I look at it. And I find the visual nature of the indicator, being able to just quickly scan stocks and look, is super helpful for me when I want to take trades, especially if you're looking at a watch list that's bigger than, say, 5 or 6 tickers. Okay, so some of the modes, here are some of the features that I built into the system. It originally started actually as just a day trading indicator, just focused on lower time frames, but then I did a bunch of studies on longer time frames and different ATR periods, and found some really interesting results, which I ended up then folding into the indicator. So day mode is for day trades. So scalping, slightly longer holds on a day trade. You can go long or short, and it's ideally paired with 30 minutes or lower time frames. Of course, you can do whatever you want in the time frames. The day mode looks weird on long time frames, but hey, you do you. I like to use it with the 10-minute. I'm a big fan of using the 10-minute with the Ripster clouds because of his golden trend rule above the 3450 or below the 3450. So I'm a big fan of that. So I typically like to use the 10-minute for trend determination. And then I'll sometimes use, I used to use the 5-minute, but now I've started to use the 3-minute. And of course, you can also use the 1-minute, but you can use whatever you want to enter or exit the trade, depending on however you feel. But I typically am using the 3-minute and 10-minute. For swing mode, this is typically for like 1 to 3 week swing trades, also long or short, ideally paired with 30 minutes to daily time frames. So I really like using this with the 1 hour, and I usually turn extended hours off on the 1 hour, so it kind of mimics it's like a zoomed in version of the daily chart, if you will. And then I also use it on the daily chart as well. So that's kind of my ideal pairing with this. And I have my Thinkorswim set up so that I can just click a button and it directly goes to the appropriate time frame with the appropriate mode, sort of using a snapshot methodology. And then on position mode, this is for longer trades. So this is really great. Again, long or short. This is really great for position traders, people who want to say buy and hold for a year, or buy and hold for 10 years or 5 years, whatever you want it to be. And you're looking for opportunities to potentially add or cut positions based on sort of longer time frames. This is ideally paired with 1 hour to weekly time frames. I found the best results. Of course, you can go higher if you want, or you can go lower if you want. And so the time frame is really up to you. However you use your system, you can do whatever you want and use the modes that are appropriate for the types of trades you like to take. These are both available on Thinkorswim and TradingView. So you can see them right here. Just go into the settings and you'll be able to set them up. All right, speaking of settings, there are a lot of them. Most of them are actually just turning on and off the clouds or changing the colors of clouds. But there's some other capabilities that I built in here. There's this feature called Use Current Close. You can see it here. You can see it here on Thinkorswim. So that's an interesting feature. I'd say it's the most confusing feature of the entire indicator. And it's probably going to confuse some people, so I wanted to give it some time today. I typically only use that because it really only affects the day trading mode. So what it does is, let's say it's the end of the day, right? And you're going through options flow, or you're going through your favorite tickers, and you're looking for mapping out tomorrow's levels. If you just click that on and then go back to your chart, you'll see tomorrow's levels projected out. And so that can be super helpful if you want to just plot your levels for the next day while you're sort of analyzing stocks. But you want to make sure to turn it off if you're using the indicator levels for live trading, because otherwise what will happen is it'll actually follow the last closing candle. And so you'll have a forever moving set of levels. So if that's confusing, sorry, reach out to me and I'll try to see if I can clarify it. But basically, use current close when you want to analyze after hours, and then turn it back off when you're ready to use the indicator for live. And that's only for day mode. The rest of the features are pretty straightforward. You can adjust the ATR length. This is using a Wilder's average, so I did not make that configurable. But if that's something that you guys want configurable, I can always change. So the typical ATR length is 14. I just keep that as the default, and the trigger percentage is the 23.6 fib level that we talked about. I know some folks out there like to adjust that for their triggers, so have at it. Nothing else will change if you change those trigger levels, but if you change the ATR length, of course, the whole thing will change. Feel free to experiment with it. I typically, for all my indicators, I try to make the defaults optimal for 80% of people, but there's 20% of people who kind of like to tweak things the way that they like it. So there it is, enough rope to hang yourself with. All right, let's walk through some examples. This is a beautiful example. My goodness, this NVIDIA trade. I know a lot of folks took this one on Friday. What an absolute monster. Just a huge momentum trade, straight shot through the call trigger. Little retest you could have gotten in. Just massive move straight to 1 ATR. Look at that. Beautiful touch of 1 ATR. Bounces back and touches our mid-range. Beautiful. Second entry right there if you wanted to. Goes back up to 1 ATR, and then it sort of consolidates. So, this is a good example of how I like to use the indicator on moves like this. It's pretty much spent at this point right here. So, at that point, there's not much meat left. Of course, you could, if you're holding longer, then it's not a big deal. But, you quick in and out. You just pop in, pop out. If you want, double dip, pop out. But it never leaves this 512 EMA. So it's a beautiful trade, and congrats for anybody who took that one. But there's lots of trades like this. I see trades like this almost every day. So that wasn't special. Of course, finding it, I know a lot of people saw the flow and saw that it was looking ready to pop. So, if you see stuff like that, keep it on your watch and just, set some alerts to see if you can get into the trade. So another one from Friday, and we kind of went over this a little bit earlier when I was tying up the overview. Here's CAR. You could have taken CAR puts. I mean, just beautiful trade here. Goes below the put trigger, bounces back, touches it a few times. Plenty of opportunities to get in and take it down to the mid fib, but it just goes straight through. Doesn't really retest much. Kind of comes back for a small retest, but then it goes all the way to -1 ATR, which is beautiful. So then another nice, really, really nice trade. Again, this is the 10-minute, so this is what, like an hour and a half. An hour and a half, and you're banking. That's a pretty good trade right there. And then it just consolidates -1 ATR. This is sort of typical of these momentum plays that are moving down quickly. You can kind of see it reaches its target and then sort of comes back up. And see where it ended in after hours. It's very fascinating. Okay, let's talk about some swing mode examples. So here's CAR. My goodness, what a trade, what a swing trade this would have been. I know some people caught this, some people even anticipated that it was going to make a run. But you can see it clear as day on swing mode here. So this is swing mode using a daily chart. It's pretty amazing when you see it in action. So, the EMAs are nice. The 512 is moving up. You're nice and green. Of course, the 3450 is lagging, so it took a little while to flip over. But price action was above it. You're in a daily squeeze. I use the Squeeze Pro from John Carter. And then, man, it just fires off, goes above the call trigger and just moons. So, this is an amazing, 5-6 day swing opportunity. Nice work in concert with the TTM squeeze. You get typically, 6 to 10 days after you get a green fire. So, man, what a monster swing. So I like to use the swing levels paired with the TTM squeeze. I find that they work really, really nicely together. But I'd love to hear what you guys think and if that works out well for you. While we're here, let me show you a couple of these features up here. So we've got this swing range. It's going to tell you the total ATR. So in this case, it's for the swing range total ATR. For the day example, it would have been smaller. So actually, let's go back and look at this. You can see typical ATR of CAR based on the last 14 period is about $17, and that's what you're going to get total on a move typically. Same concept here. This is going to be slightly larger because it's a swing play and swing mode. And you can kind of see this indicator right here is based off of something Ripster did where he was trying to show the current range against the total range and then give you an indication of whether there's room to move. So this will turn, start green if you've got room to go. And then when it hits about 70%, it'll turn yellow. And then when it hits 90%, it turns red. So it's kind of a quick visual indicator to understand if you've got juice in the move in the play still. So we're at red. Of course, it could keep going. I mean, sometimes momentum plays high goes higher, low goes lower, etc. But yeah, man, what a monster move. Beautiful. Call triggers, full ATR here. And put triggers, full ATR there as well. So there's nice little labels that you have. In TradingView, I'm still working on this piece right here, so you'll get that soon, but these two are available currently in TradingView. These trend labels are also available on the website for Thinkorswim if you want them. All that does is tell you if it's above or below the 3450 EMA cloud. It's configurable, so you can change it however you want. Okay, so here's another one, swing mode, Oxy calls. Actually, before we go forward with that, I just want to show you here, you can see an example. Before the big move, you could actually take in some puts on CAR as well. So, interesting, works both ways. Okay, here's Oxy. So if you want to anticipate Warren Buffett's moves, here you go. Breaks through the call trigger on the last day of the last month. It's in a massive squeeze right here. So makes its monster move, riding the EMA clouds, 512, 3450 is moving up. Just beautiful, nice swing trade. You could have taken some profit here. The mid-level, when it did its thing with these sort of doji candles, left some runners, man, those would have printed. So lots of opportunity. It was basically a 5-day trade. You would have hit full ATR on this and then some, actually more than that. That's wild. So you'll see trades like this pretty often in swing mode. It's pretty cool, and I really love pairing it with the TTM squeeze. I find those work really well together. All right, here's some puts on the Qs, swing mode. So obviously Qs have been on a run recently. They kind of bounced off of, look where they bounced. That's fun, isn't it? -1 ATR in swing mode. So these are cool because you could have taken puts here, or you could have waited for the next day on confirmation and retested the 9 EMA. So that little white line in between my 512 is my 8-9 EMA, which I use as my pullback. And it went almost the distance. I mean, you could have taken profit here. This is a good trade alone, just in 1 day or even in 2. You would have gotten a little extra juice if you'd kind of timed it right. Could have looked at the intraday to exit as well. Came back up and then went full distance. I mean, if you'd held it all the way, you'd gotten your full ATR. So that's pretty cool. And then it bounced back. Sometimes it'll go below. You'll see examples of that. Oh, actually, here's one right here. It'll go below, but typically reverts back. That's what I've noticed. Still examining that and trying to understand the behavior there, but sort of matches the concept of being overextended on an RSI, or in this case, I'm using Radium Fire, but yeah, RSI is overextended, so it's going to bounce back. Okay, position mode. So this one's actually really exciting for me. A lot of people have a tendency not to zoom out, which I really wish more people would zoom out. I think it gives you a lot of understanding of what's going on, particularly if you're looking at things like SPY or QQQ. So here's SPY puts that you could have gotten back in January. Let's say leaps, or you could have gotten short. It's up to you. But look at this daily chart with position mode on. So same concept, same levels. I've actually put the extension on the bottom, so you kind of see where it bounced. But look at that. Falls below the put trigger. You could have taken puts here if you were willing to hold. Maybe you had a wider stop because it's a longer, hold. So if you'd taken puts here, leaps, maybe you're willing to stop out at the previous close or slightly above the previous close. Oops, sorry about that. Above the previous close. Or you could even put it higher. I mean, that's dependent on your risk, what expiration strike, etc. But look at that. Beautiful move all the way down to -1 ATR. You could have taken profit there. It just consolidated. Then it moves back, consolidates. Then it moves all the way down to the extension, which is wild. And, of course, bounces off the extension, and now we're coming back up. So this is something I'm watching. I'm sure the whole world is watching right now. But very fascinating. You could have anticipated some of the drop in the S&P 500 just using position mode, which is pretty cool. It's even worse in Qs. My goodness, these things got slammed, which makes sense. You know, the 10 years going up, tech has gotten quite a haircut. I think the big guys are doing all right, but man, some of those growth stocks are just absolutely hammered. And so this is a really interesting one. You could have taken puts here, taken profit here, came back, retest, crosses through. You could have taken puts again or waited, taken puts here and gone full distance again, and then all the way down to the extension. You could have had runners down to the extension, or you could have just held. My goodness, But you know, there's many ways to manage this trade, and lots of ways that this could have ended up profitable, which is really, really exciting to see. Unfortunate to see this big of a drop, but nice that we could have capitalized on it. Bounce back to full ATR and then sort of doing its thing back down to the extension. Probably went to ATR, looks like it. And then of course back down, and now bouncing back up above the 34.50. So yeah, fascinating trade over here in January on the Qs. Really, really fascinating. It was below the EMAs too. My goodness, nice trade. All right, this is an amazing long-term swing play that absolutely printed money for anybody who was in it for this long, or was holding stock for this long. This is going back down to October. You know, some folks called this back here and took some really awesome trades, including Drippy. And my goodness, just an absolute monster. So you could have taken it here, you know, this consolidation, you know, or taken it up to, you know, the 61.8, taking some profit there, and then gotten back in on a retest all the way through, taking some more profit at both those levels, let it ride, you know, comes up into the next set of position levels, and, you know, it consolidates, so maybe take some more profit. And then, you know, it dips and then breaks through the call trigger again, and it just absolutely rips, you know, over the course of a month and a half. Is that right? Yeah, about a month and a half, back up to 1 ATR, the new levels, and it's continuing to go. And I put the extension on because, my goodness, is it going to go there again? It's possible. So, you know, you up, down, doesn't matter. You know, if you find the right opportunity, you know, you can use these levels to potentially help you guide your trade. So that's the indicator overview. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments. I'll try my best to reply. You can also reach me on Twitter at Saty Mahajan on Twitter. And thanks for watching the video, and I hope to make many more for you guys. Enjoy the indicator. Let me know how it works, how it doesn't work, and have a great week, and happy trading.